Alright, we're going to fix a few quick issues real quick, and then I'm going to get the stream on the go here as I just fiddle with a few of my settings here on the side to kind of make the stream just go a little bit smoother, as there was just a little bit of a lag issue just a minute ago. So I'm going to fix that just real quick, then we'll be right into it here, answering all your questions, discussing the weather ahead, and taking a look at severe weather potential that is on the way here. So let me just fix this just really quickly, and then we'll be right into the content. There's normally about a 20-second delay on my stream, so if I don't, respond to what you're talking to me about right away, that is why. But we are live on the stream right now at this point, and I would love to know if you can hear me as well. So just let me know about all of that as well in the chat at this point. But let's go ahead and get right into it here in about 10 seconds. Just, again, still fixing a couple of things just really quickly here. That we're a little wonky. There we go. Alright, we've got this all set up at this point, and thank you so much to everybody who is here on the stream. There's a little bit of a lag on the clock, and that was kind of what I was worried about there just a minute ago. There's just a little bit of a lagging and kind of just slowness issue with the stream, but we've got that all figured out. We're taking a look right now at WeatherBell maps, of course, free trial link to those in the description as always. Glad to know that you can hear me high seas. Thanks for letting me know that. Tonight we've actually got some storms. I was just looking at a severe thunderstorm warning in northern Missouri not too long ago, as these storms right here that the European model has been picking up on have definitely been developing this evening. A marginal risk for severe weather issued by the Storm Prediction Center that's beginning to verify with, a low-end wind and hail threat, some of those 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, the 1-inch hail. You're pretty much stereotypical severe thunderstorm warning issued up there this evening. But nonetheless, that is a little bit of something going on up there. So, kind of interesting to see the first part of this event already starting to kind of play out how it's expected to be. But our main severe weather is going to start tomorrow, right in this zone right here. We've got a little bit of a cold front and dry line right here. We've got a warm front right here. Severe weather chances are going to be most increased right here in the parts of northeast Kansas and northwest Missouri. We'll take a look at that momentarily. And then you can see as I continue to play this on out, as we head towards the Thursday and Thursday night time frame and into Friday, we're going to be watching right in that same zone from the day before as that shifts northeast. So now on up here into this zone right here, that's kind of where the cold front and warm front are converging. Then we've also got this area down here that we'll be watching for some convective activity. That's been the 15% zone that the Storm Prediction Center has had highlighted for a very extensive period of time, all the way on down into that region there. So again, we've got a marginal risk here over northern Missouri this evening, Tuesday evening. We've got a slight risk that's going to be through the parts of northeast Kansas and northwest Missouri Wednesday evening, primarily Wednesday evening and into the night. And then Thursday and Thursday night, we've got kind of slight risks that we're going to be watching down here and up here as well, both with the potential for very large hail, as well as the potential of some tornadoes and gusty winds. So there's multiple different things to be tracking here. And we're going to go ahead and slide our way on over to Radar Omega and kind of take a look at what we've got going on over there, because we're taking a look at the satellite imagery, and there's that severe thunderstorm warning this evening as I film this. In fact, we've now got a new one there out of that thunderstorm that's making its way through parts of southeast Kansas. Here we go again, 1-inch hail being the main concern out of any storm. In fact, that hail is now up to 1.25 inches in diameter, so half dollar size there out of that storm. That is in Lafayette County in west central Missouri, north central Johnson County in west central Missouri this evening as I film this. But again, keep in mind if you're watching this live stream after or watching the replay, this probably won't be applicable at that point. But you can really see where our main pieces of everything is coming from here. The reason for our severe weather right now, it's really not even out of this new system that we're going to be tracking tomorrow and Thursday. You can see they're in East Kansas and northwest Missouri, the tail end of a little cold front that's running through southern Canada there, southern Ontario, and then heading towards Quebec, that region. That's kind of the focal point for where storms are developing tonight. And then back on off towards the west over here, that's where we've got our new system making its way through parts of the west. That's going to make for some very dangerous fire conditions over West Texas and the panhandle of Oklahoma for our Wednesday and going towards our Thursday even. And we're also going to be watching the severe weather potential. Obviously, that's going to really ramp on up out of that. So let's go ahead and kind of move on away from our current radar and all of that. And we're going to turn off alerts, weather alerts at this point. And as I do that, we're going to also take a look at what our convective outlook for tomorrow is, because we're going to kind of skip past today and move towards tomorrow again. Here's our day 2 convective outlook. So as we go towards the day here, on our Wednesday, this is what our severe weather outlook looks like. And again, it goes all the way from level 1, which is what your green colors would be. Level 2 is in the yellow. And yeah, let's get a recent run of the HRRR here. We're going to take a look at the 18Z, which is going to take us all the way through that time frame. And what I want to show you here, good evening to Misty, Severe Storm Filmer, Tiffany Coleman, Just Hoops TV. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Let's play this on out again tonight. Here are those brief storms. You got critical to extreme. Brief storms moving through parts of northern Missouri tonight. And then as we go into the day tomorrow, this is when the slight risk is going to pop on up. Look at that. There's your warm front, and these are going to be those elevated storms. You know, there is a 5% tornado risk in here, so your routine slight risk tornado risk. So what that means is areas around Kansas City, Missouri will need to be monitoring the forecast closely late Wednesday evening here. So say at 9, 10, 11 o'clock, that's when these storms really look to fire on up at their worst point here. You can see those moving along that warm front. Looks like the first initiation could be closer to 8, 9 o'clock, and I wouldn't be surprised if we probably get some of these areas on over here entered into a marginal risk just because of the look of some of these model runs showing those storms moving through that region over there. Nonetheless, a lot of that's just going to be some thunder, some heavy rain. But again, look at those pinks and those purples showing up near Topeka, Kansas, right into that 29, the 435, the I-70 corridor where they meet up there around Independence, Kansas City, even on over to Jefferson City, watching this boundary lift northward tomorrow evening. That's going to be capable. First of all, in these cells, there's a hatched hail risk. So I think hail is really going to be one of the big things that we just see out of the entirety of this system, not just tomorrow, but really just through the system as a whole. So again, 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow evening, I think is when these storms are really going to begin to hit that peak intensity right around Kansas City. Again, don't really look at where the storms 100% are showing on this, because they're not going to be exactly in that place, but look at how they're kind of lining up, okay, and kind of the timing. That's something more to focus on when you're in that 24-hour out range from these kinds of systems. So if you're in Kansas City, even though it doesn't show a particular storm right over your area, that doesn't mean there won't be one. That just means that the boundary looks like there's going to be some storms right along through there. And eventually Kansas City could kind of get in on some of these storms. But again, locally, these are some little kind of elevated supercell potential here. We could get a few more surface-based ones as well. So I'm thinking there's going to be a kind of low to medium-end tornado risk out of these. But even on the higher end, we're probably going to be looking at some of those 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts in a few of these storms. And, you know, what's more in that scattered fashion throughout this entire box right here, I think. And again, that's why I think this risk is going to maybe expand eastward just a little bit. I think we're going to start to focus in on the potential for maybe some 2 to 2.5 inch diameter hail. So that's going to be worth watching. Notice, again, these storms continuing to lift onto the north. And notice it's these little embedded little kinks that I'm circling here, all the way embedded along this line, kind of. Those are where we'll have to watch for the supercells. But again, I think this is really going to be more of a cluster of some big hailers with local tornado potential, 11, 12 tomorrow evening and towards the midnight time frame. So just keep that in mind. And again, these storms are going to kind of cluster together quickly as they move northward. Again, these are going to be worth watching over here in eastern Illinois, parts of southwestern Indiana. I'd be surprised if there's not some sort of little marginal risk extension that heads in that direction if the models continue to look like this. But definitely you can see the big wind and hail potential probably continuing to try and ramp on up. Tornado threat goes down in the overnight, Wednesday night and into our early Thursday morning. As you can see, this kind of turns into a little bit more in the way of that clustering of storms kind of moving on through and almost in the direction with that cold front at that point, and everything kind of expands into a mess. And that's why our severe weather risk is going to kind of linger around. But what's interesting is everything kind of lifts north originally with those elevated supercells and some of the surface-based ones. And then we eventually see everything begin to kind of slide eastward a little bit more from there as the cold front kind of interacts with this whole setup. Now, what's interesting is you might be wondering, well, why in the heck? I didn't see any storms down here. Why is there a marginal risk down here through parts of southern Kansas and east central Oklahoma? And you want to know what the region... Or you want to know what the reason for that is? Not the region for that. The reason for this is it's because you got that cold front kind of extending like this, and you got that sharp dry line. The dew points making their way well through the 60s, close to 70 out ahead of this. You've got plenty of warm, moist air out ahead of this system. So if and when, potentially, storms fire in this region right here and try to move east along that dry line and cold front, there's that local potential that very large hail could erupt out of any storm there. So if there's probably only going to be 1 or 2 storms in this whole marginal zone, but I guarantee you, if they form, you could easily get hatched-worthy hail, 2 to 3 inch hail, just with this kind of setup there along a dry line there in the south to central plains there. So keep that in mind. That's why that risk is there. But again, notice a lot of this is kind of based off that warm front up here. It went late Wednesday night and into our Thursday. And again, we continue to see some of that push east into our Thursday. And in fact, let's pull up the day 3 convective outlook. And here's what we've got on that. We've got a slight risk into our Thursday, and this is a very expansive slight risk. Most of the activity that heads towards Chicago in the morning is looks to be pretty heavy rain, maybe some embedded heavier thunderstorms. But again, we're probably not looking at a huge severe weather threat out of that. But it's what we're going to get towards the afternoon that could be worth watching here. And again, we're going to be watching a bigger hail threat down here and a more local hail threat up here as well. So there's going to be a couple different areas we're watching into Thursday. And then this middle ground area, again, this is kind of that same setup I was talking about with that Central Plains marginal just a minute ago. That's where you're talking about a high ceiling but kind of low floor situation. So you're kind of in between the 2 big zones that are being highlighted for the hatch risk. Because again, if I go on over here and I pull on up your hatch risk as we go in towards our Thursday, notice where the hatch risks are. That means that the big hail is going to be possible down here and up here. And primarily, and maybe some stronger tornadoes as well, because we're going to have some wind shear in here as well. But this middle ground zone, I don't rule anything out there through central Missouri and northern Arkansas either. And in fact, let's take a look at NAM guidance and just kind of take a look at how that compares with the HRRR model that we were just showing you here on One Nation Weather. By the way, if you're new to the channel and you're watching the stream right now, don't forget to hit that like button and as well subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an update that I do here. But again, NAM tomorrow late day showing a similar scenario. Again, you kind of get that northern lifting of storms in the right after sundown there through parts of northeast Kansas and northwest Missouri. This is Wednesday night. And through Kansas City as well. Then it turns into more clustering that begins to head east, mostly broken up as it heads towards Chicago into Thursday afternoon. But notice what we get going on here. And this is kind of setup that's really concerning, because you get a little bit of that initial part of the system to head east. You've still got a little bit of a low sitting right here in the Central Plains. I mean, the convective activity, the NAM, pops on up there in the middle of the night, Thursday night, going into Friday morning. That would definitely potentially be worthy of some dangerous concerns here for maybe hail and maybe even some tornadoes. So again, I see why the Storm Prediction Center has that hatched risk outlined, and it looks like more of a, honestly, that would be kind of the higher tornado threat as I see it for now. Again, that could change, and again, this is just my personal analysis on this situation. But again, looking at towards the end of this NAM run, again, 60 hours out, so not 100% in an accurate time frame. It looks like the threat down here, and this is kind of what I've been hinting at all along with that threat down here through parts of southeast Oklahoma and northeast Texas. This has been the one that's been actually longer highlighted by the Storm Prediction Center because of the higher certainty in the threat. At this point, it might not be the worst threat, but I think big hail and gusty winds might be the more of a concern with the clusterings down there along that front, whereas some more tornado threats might actually be kind of prominent up here and in the midwestern part of this zone late Thursday and Thursday night. So at this point, what we know about this situation, Wednesday and Wednesday night, we're watching initial development with supercell structures through northeastern Kansas and northern Missouri in that slight risk zone there. Some of those could produce very large hail, 2 to 3 inches in diameter in a local fashion, but there will be scattered bouts of probably 1 to 2 inch hail within those storms. That'll move towards the north. And then eventually we kind of see more clusterings as these try to move on into parts of southeastern Nebraska, southern Iowa, and west central parts of Illinois. Now, those storms head on off towards the east through parts of northern Illinois, eastern parts, northern and eastern parts of Indiana. Again, you can see those storms moving north after the Wednesday overnight and into our Thursday morning. Those progress through the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes region. That kind of part of the system breaks on up, but then with a little bit of a new surge of energy there into the plains as we go Thursday and Thursday night, this is probably our most expansive risk and potentially our most dangerous risk here, especially maybe for tornadoes here on up here over the Midwest. And then again, watching that more line segment look down here over parts of southeast Kansas and north central Texas, that's what I'm seeing with my current analysis of this situation. And again, things are still subject to change, but just looking at the models and what I've seen, I mean, the NAM and the HRRR are actually in pretty decent agreement for tomorrow night's slight risk. And again, I can pull up that slight risk one more time for you here and kind of show you what that's looking like. And this is for Wednesday and Wednesday night. In fact, again, the tornado threat is going to be closer to Topeka and Kansas City. And the hail threat, again, this is what's really creating these hatch risks day by day. Look at that hail threat. Again, this is the Wednesday, late Wednesday evening, Wednesday night. There you go. Initial development moves north, then you get the clusterings. That's the same thing I was showing you on the HRRR. So, we'll kind of pinpoint locations a little bit more as we get closer. But it's definitely looking like this zone right here is going to get that initial development that moves north Wednesday night. Then everything slides east with some clusterings a little bit more. And then into the day, Thursday, we'll watch some activity of just some rain and regular thunder probably move here over the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes. And then we get that new firing in that new zone Thursday along the cold front and dry line setup. So hopefully I explained that pretty well. I thought that went pretty well there. Got 32 of you watching. Thanks so much for joining me here at One Nation Weather. Got a lot of chat messages that I've actually missed. Do I think Ohio could see the marginal risk? At this point, I'm not seeing Ohio seeing any sort of marginal risk the next couple of days. Severe storm filmer. And most convective activity that heads your direction is probably going to be elevated along that warm front. You might get a little bit of small hail heading up in that direction. And some heavy rain. But at this point, that would kind of come into Thursday. But again, that's kind of on the leading edge of that system. And at this point, it looks like once we get past Thursday night, severe weather threats would actually sink southward closer to the Gulf Coast. So to answer your question, severe storm filmer, no, I don't really think marginal risk is 100% going to make it to northern Ohio. Now, the expansion tomorrow of it could certainly move on over there into parts of central Illinois and Indiana, maybe. That wouldn't be out of the question. But, I can't 100% rule out it making it up there. I just don't foresee, even if there were to be a marginal risk up there in northern Ohio, I wouldn't expect anything too big to come out of it there. Thursday night PDS tornado signature in Missouri. Yeah, I think that threat up there over Missouri, Illinois, and southeast Iowa Thursday evening and into the night, that looks like a really ripe setup for tornadoes. So we'll see how that goes. And I can actually show you the wind shear here in just a second. We'll look at that. High seas, but yeah, wouldn't be shocked if a 10% or 10% SIG is issued tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get one for tomorrow, but we might get one for Thursday as well. And I think 10% zones for tornadoes, and that's just your enhanced tornado risk for anyone who's not quite as, like weather geeky here on the stream. But the 10% zones, I wouldn't be shocked if they pop up, but they're kind of on the smaller side. I think tomorrow is a big, large hail threat, though, with the cells that develop. And we'll probably get a good bit of tornado warnings, maybe there in northeast Kansas and parts of northern Missouri there, again, with this threat that we're looking at on screen right now. Will I be covering Wisconsin a lot this severe weather season? I mean, I think it's going to get pretty darn active up there. We're already seeing events spread on up that direction right now, so I think it's going to really pick on up towards closer to late April, May, and then especially into the summer up there. So to answer your question, I probably will end up covering you a lot, LA for Thurs. Do we do zip codes? Yeah, you can put in a zip code, Misty, and I'll type you in, and we'll look at your individual forecast. And if you want to put that in there now, while I actually go back on over to WeatherBell and we take a look at the wind shear for tomorrow, we can do that. So if you'll put that in there, that would be awesome. So again, we've kind of, the upper trough of the system is not really impressive, but as we go Wednesday into Thursday, we got enough of a positively tilted trough moving here over the Central Plains to kind of just overall say what a positively tilted trough is. A weak trough making its way over the plains at this point, but it is enough to kind of get, the severe weather setup you want. If you're a severe weather lover, if you're not, the severe weather setup you don't want. And you can see that moving on up there through Wednesday and into Thursday with that little red pulse of energy. Now we're going to look at the low-level jet here. This is your 850 millibar wind speeds. And again, through the day tomorrow, we've got that little pocket that's going to kind of try to slide on up kind of right with these storms here as the warm front's right here. So again, that's why there's a tornado threat on that kind of, where the warm sector meets the cold front and dry line there Wednesday night and into our Thursday. again, in that zone that we talked about a minute ago, that's especially prone to large hail tomorrow evening and overnight. And then as we go in towards our Thursday night and into Friday, notice we've got this kind of shear set up right along this line right here. We'll see if it sets up well enough for tornado development into Missouri and Illinois, but right now that looks decent enough. So at this point, I think we're going to get a lot of big hail reports out of everything, okay, over the next couple of days. We're probably going to see probably dozens of hail reports come in each day if the models continue to look like this. So this is going to be one of those big one of those big slight risk events where you got a lot of hailstorms and you're kind of looking to see what the tornado threat ends up bringing. All right, I've got zip codes out of Misty and Severe Storm Filmer, so I'm going to type those in here. And the search bar, there it is. I don't use the search bar that often on here. So let's 63334. All right. Bowling Green in Missouri. Okay. And it zoomed me way in on you. All right, so. All right, I've got you pulled on up. Let's go on over to Radar Omega now. There we go. In Missouri, yeah. Anybody who's on the stream, put in those zip codes and I'll get to your forecast here. But in Bowling Green, Missouri at this point, it's looking like tomorrow, some of that development could stretch on over to your area, and I wouldn't be shocked if the slight risk moves out a little bit more. The marginal risk goes this way a little bit more, like so. So tomorrow I'd be watching for primarily, I think the tornado threat's going to be closer to kind of that, the convergence of the warm and cold front to your west. Low-end tornado threat. More moderate hail threat for maybe 1 to 2 inch hail there in Bowling Green, Missouri, Wednesday and Wednesday night for you, Misty. And then as we go into Thursday as well, we'll be watching your threat there very closely. So a multi-day event possible there, one with more of our warm front setup. And then the next one there as we kind of go towards the tail end of the system and the stronger cold front that's associated with it as we go into our Thursday evening. And yeah, I mean, that lines you up right in that slight risk zone. And you could be in that tornado threat, and potentially if the threat goes up a little bit, if we get any sort of enhanced risk, that could include you in the end, Misty. So definitely be on high alert the next couple of days. This isn't the worst thing you'll probably ever see, but certainly some damaging hailstones, I think, really being a big concern. And then, you're watching the tornado and wind threat as well. Some routine 60-mile-per-hour strong downdraft winds out of a lot of these thunderstorms, I think. Let's see. Severe Storm Filmer. Let's get your zip code. 44224. Stow, Ohio. I want to go back to the HRRR and its guidance because I think we can get just through you. And again, anybody new on the stream, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. And y'all look at Johnson City for you here momentarily. Michael Banks, I'm not forgetting about you. See your comment just now. We'll get to you just in a second once I get through this. But yeah, new to the channel. Yeah, good job, Misty. Stay weather aware for sure. And if hopefully we're at whatever home building structure you're going to be in at time, whenever these storms might be striking, so late evening, both times probably, and into the early overnight hours. Make sure that you're ready to kind of get into that lowest, most interior room of your structure, and whether that's going to be a ground floor of a building, or, like an interior closet, a bathroom away from windows, a basement, whatever you got. That's going to be your best bet in case of a tornado threat developing. I don't foresee that being a big deal. I mean, the HRRR shows this big mass, and I mean, keyword mass, that's heavy rain. That could probably edge through your area late Thursday going into Friday. But in a place, I mean, we can go on over to the European model for you there, Severe Storm Filmer, and just quickly take a look at this, because I don't think... Yeah, it's mostly just going to be like warm front thunderstorms. We'll see if what comes crashing down late Thursday night and into early Friday could be on the stronger side Friday morning. But you notice those yellows up there. That's just some routine thunderstorm activity. Your real deal thunderstorm activity, Severe Storm Filmer, it looks like it's going to be back down here over kind of the south central plains. You can really see that. And again, kind of looking at that, the thunderstorm convection. The Euro model still kind of showing this zone further in that more hail zone, that the more hail prominent zone down there over parts of the south central plains and the Arklatex, the one that's been delineated for longer there for Thursday evening and overnight. That one bringing the bigger lightning event. So again, we'll kind of see how many supercells we can try and get Thursday evening up here. So for Johnson City, I mean, the European model, look at how it just breaks all that down as it heads towards you. If you get a thunder threat, it's probably going to come in towards our Friday there in Johnson City, Tennessee, Michael Banks, 12:30. But if there's any severe threat, it's going to be down here, probably in the south central United States, closer to the Gulf Coast as well. East Texas might get another shot at some thunderstorms there. Those would ride closer to the Gulf Coast. I don't foresee anything significant there in a place like Johnson City. And I was looking at models and temperatures yesterday across the southeast region, because of course I'm here in the southeast as well, Michael Banks. And I'm just telling you, I don't think anything too bad would end up happening there in Johnson City, Tennessee, out of this particular event. But stay tuned and check back up with me to see if that changes. And also, when you get a lot of storms like this, you get a lot of rain too, everyone. And here's how much rain. Oh yeah, you're good. Severe storm filmer, glad to help you. And you have a good evening, okay? But let's continue. Here's how much rain could fall. And again, I don't really want you to focus on where it's showing these heavy totals, because you notice how splotchy this Euro model is. We're going to watch kind of these areas up here, because you get those multiple rounds of potential severe weather. Also, maybe some flooding up there in Missouri and Illinois. So that's another thing you're going to contend with in Bowling Green, Missouri there, Misty. Central Illinois as well, maybe 1 to 3 inches of rain locally out of those heavier storms. Widespread 1/2 inch to 1 inch probably up there. And then down here in the Arklatex, again, heavy storms, a lot of clustering. You get that flood threat as well with some of those local 3 to 4 inch totals, maybe even a little bit higher. And if we go on over, I don't know how well this is actually going to show up on the screen, but if we go on over to the excessive rainfall outlooks here from the Weather Prediction Center, you can see where those outlooks are outlined. For Wednesday and into Thursday, it's going to be mostly up here over northeast Nebraska, or east Nebraska, northeast Kansas, southwest Iowa, and northwestern parts of Missouri. There's your marginal zone, so level 1 of 4 on that scale. Going into Thursday all the way through early Friday morning. Notice all the way along that cold front, but especially down there where that heavier rain is in the Arklatex. And then as we go towards further on, this is Friday. We'll watch flooding down here over the Mid-South. And Michael Banks, don't worry, this is not a severe weather outlook. This is flooding. And Johnson City might be in a marginal to slight flood risk Friday and into Saturday. And then we'll continue to watch kind of that boundary is going to drape around and linger down here, kind of to help form our next system beyond that. And we'll continue to watch flood threat. So flood threat really remains elevated down here over Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, especially, and the Arklatex a little bit as well, Thursday all the way through this weekend. But yeah, we have severe thunderstorm warnings this evening as well. I'm glad you pointed that out, Misty. So as I'm doing this with y'all on this Thursday evening, we do have some activity developing up here in parts of Missouri. And pretty routine 60-mile-per-hour wind gust, 1-inch hail. But yeah, those storms are definitely gathering together a little bit more this evening while we do the stream. And I don't see any kind of like immediate tornado threats or anything out of those. That's the good news this evening. But definitely some large hail embedded in those storms. And those will kind of head east briefly and then start to break up quickly. We can look, and the models are going to be pretty spot on these because they're right now. And I can show you again. So the outlook on your screen does not correlate with tonight's threat. In fact, here's tonight's threat, okay? Our Tuesday evening threat is this. This is just a level 1 marginal routine risk here. Storms firing in the zone they're supposed to. Notice, I mean, they're not gonna. They're just gonna be kind of bubbling up through that region just through tonight. There's a lot of cumulonimbus. A lot of cumulonimbus equals a lot of kind of storms, and when you get enough, you're gonna get a few stronger ones as well. But yeah. So that's our severe weather side of things. Again, tomorrow, I'm really watching up there northeast Kansas, northern Missouri, southern Iowa for that risk of big hail, maybe a few tornadoes. We'll watch that same region and then starting to head on up there into parts of northern Illinois, southeast Iowa as well, especially, I think, as we go into our Thursday, as well as back on down there towards Arklatex and that zone that's especially highlighted, I think, for big hail. So there's a lot to talk about. And I apologize, I never took it over to Radar Omega there when I was talking about those storms just a second ago. In Missouri that are ongoing this evening. Samuel Wilkinson Jr. says, hello, good evening to you. I hope you are doing very well. Yeah, and then one other thing that we've got as we go into, I guess we don't have fire weather on here, do we? Fire weather is going to be a different overlay, actually. There we go. Fire weather conditions are going to be on the very ripe side tomorrow up here, and with all the wildfires that have occurred up here in the Amarillo region, and they're in the West Texas or West Texas and Western Oklahoma recently, we don't want to see this. But with gusty winds, very low humidity, dry conditions over there as we go into our Wednesday, really watching that critical fire condition on up there. Extreme risk, in fact, in the pinks. A wildfire outbreak possible being listed there by the Storm Prediction Center. So the Storm Prediction Center does fires too. Keep that in mind. There's going to be some very strong winds as well. So there's, again, it's behind that dry line that's helping to fuel those storms to the east. So there are going to be surface winds sustained about 20 to 30. You've got humidity 10 to 20%, critically dry. So that's just not looking good for tomorrow. Okay, so if you live in these areas, get ready to potentially have to evacuate if you live in a fire-prone area. See you next time, Leo the Weather Nerd. Samuel Wilkinson Jr. is from Meadville, Mississippi, and is currently at Vicksburg, Mississippi right now, you say? All right, I've got you. Let's get down there. And in fact, I feel embarrassed for having to type you in, but we're going to do it anyway. And yeah, in Vicksburg, your threat's probably going to come Thursday night and into Friday here, and we'll see what the Storm Prediction Center does with your risk on Friday itself, but definitely Thursday night, there's a marginal risk there, so late night storms could still be producing some leftover wind and hail probably as they head towards your area there. And then we'll probably see an outlook look something like, kind of cover this region as we go in towards our Friday for some additional development. So you're going to be kind of in an active zone because this whole area is going to stay really active even beyond when we see this kind of system roll out. And I can show you what I mean here on the Euro from noon. I mean, even once the system rolls on out of here, you can see that precipitation, the daily afternoon storms especially, still lingering. I mean, that's Sunday early morning. You still got some, so that's a flood and storm threat continuing down there on the tail end of this boundary Saturday and into Sunday. And it looks like we're going to get some sort of little low to try and run along that at some point. But regardless, we're going to get the polar jet to dive on down. And I'm glad you mentioned your area down there in Vicksburg. I mean, it's eventually kind of behind that lingering boundary. We'll eventually see a little dip in the polar jet stream. That looks like this. And that trough in the east is going to bring temperature anomalies that look like this. Cooler than average over the east by about 10 to 15 degrees. So pretty nice March frost and freeze over a lot of the east. But it looks to rebound quickly over the plains based on the looks of this. But maybe some more cold air behind it. And if you get that kind of setup, you're ripe for another storm system as we head towards Friday, March 22nd. So just keep an eye on the active pattern. Tornado percentage, Samuel Wilkinson Jr. I don't have one from the Storm Prediction Center yet for you Thursday night, but I would expect it to be pretty low in Vicksburg, okay? Probably maybe a 2% zone through there, and then into Friday we'll see what it produces. It looks like we could see some convective activity Friday there. Nothing too extreme in Vicksburg, Mississippi, I don't think, but there will be that wind and hail threat locally out of some of these storms, and then the tornado threat might be kind of secondary there. But again, stay tuned for more updates, because, things can change. I can be wrong. Lots of stuff can happen. Tomorrow for you, Misty, remember you got those storms on up there tomorrow evening and into the early overnight hours Wednesday night and into our early Thursday that you got to watch there. Misty, I'm in Bowling Green, Missouri, and then into our Thursday as well. We'll watch your threat, but it looks like both days you got a hail, mainly hail threat for 1 to 2 inch diameter hail, and then we'll have to watch and see if you can maybe get a tornado threat as well. Southeast Iowa look like for the upcoming days in the 52584 area. I've got you. Let me get some water real quick. Haven't had anything to drink since I started the stream. Let's go back up here. So Southeast Iowa. In the SAD area. Assuming that's how you pronounce it. Whoa. Just a minute. Okay, this took me overseas. There we go, Pulaski, Iowa. That's funny what I just did right there. My bad. So that probably wasn't pronounced sad, because I was overseas, so they probably pronounced differently. My apologies there. So Wednesday night, tomorrow night, I'm going to watch your area. Hey, tonight you might get a brief hail threat, and the same goes into tomorrow up there, but I think most storms are just going to be some heavy rain if they make their way on up there into that region. Your main threat that you got to watch is going to be as we go in towards our Thursday late evening and Thursday night, okay, in Pulaski, Iowa area there. And storms, the future radar on your screen right now, don't worry about that. So just pretend that's not there. We're watching, you see these dashed lines. That is a hatched risk. That means you're going to be in the potential zone that could see hail, probably 2 to 3 inches in diameter. And that's what this risk is going to be for. Maybe some gusty winds as well as tornado threat. But the early indications I saw from models are that this is going to be pretty explosive up here in the Midwest, and then back on down here into the Arklatex Thursday and Thursday night. Still looks like the most robust point of this threat. So for now, if you live in this zone Wednesday and Wednesday night, into this zone, really as we go into Thursday night, Thursday night down here over the Arklatex, all these areas just really need to remain weather aware. And yeah, Samuel Wilkinson in Dallas, you could have that thunderstorm threat. I don't think much is going to get going tomorrow late day. If it would just be a hail threat, but maybe a low-end tornado threat and an expansive, large 2 to 3 inch hail, scattered event of 2 to 3 inch hail threat there in the Arklatex. Again, Thursday late day, Thursday evening, and really into the early overnight hours as well, kind of starting here and on that dry line heading southeastward. So you can kind of envision these storms if they fire around sundown, which is kind of the overall look, starting around sundown, kind of into the mid-evening, around midnight, and then onward from there, kind of heading eastward through the rest of that risk zone. So just keep that in mind for Thursday night in Dallas. Justin Morris, what does the tornado threat on Thursday look like for the DFW region? And that's kind of what we're just looking at. The hatched lines on our screen are going to be for hail. At this point, the original wording and the continued wording that I'm seeing is that this is probably going to be more of a tornado, not a tornado threat, I apologize, more of a hail threat, okay, Thursday night. But we could see a low end to maybe slight end tornado threat develop on this low end down here in Dallas Thursday evening and into Thursday night for you there, Justin Morris. So yeah, I don't think the tornado threat's going to be the main concern. I think, if anything, the tornado threat, as of now, as I see it now, it's going to be a little higher on up there further to the north. Both of these zones need to watch for low-end tornado threats and especially big hail threats. Notice the word hail just keeps coming up in my conversations here because that's the main thing that I think we're really going to be seeing out of these explosive storms the next several days. Cash Money says, what do you think about 3864... or 38614, Clarksdale, Mississippi. And yeah, so your threat's going to come late Thursday night. with the leftovers kind of our storms from the west. It's probably going to be a big mass of some gusty winds, maybe the leading edge with some 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts in a local fashion there. And then we'll also be watching a low-end hail threat and maybe a low-end tornado threat. And again, tomorrow we'll find out the details on whether we've got what the tornado percentage threats are going to be, 2%, 5%, 10%, and if you don't know what that means, it's just the Storm Prediction Center's levels from the lowest, starting to head on up towards that medium range. Which risk is worse? Oh yeah, Misty, the yellow colors are worse here. So on these this is a 5% zone, this kind of, the brownish color, and then you've got the yellowish color being 15%, the hash lines down there through Dallas, southeast Oklahoma, southwest Arkansas, those are your hatched colors. The dash lines, those mean that there's probably going to be some more significant severe weather in that area. You're welcome, Cash Money. Bad weather in Winsboro, Louisiana. If there's any bad weather into Louisiana, it's going to be late Thursday night and into our Friday. And again, it's probably going to be a primarily hail threat, with a tornado threat not out of the question either. But yeah, I'm particularly interested in how things shape up tomorrow night. Because if the hail threat continues looking like it does in northeast Kansas and parts of Missouri Wednesday night even here, I wouldn't be shocked if we even get an enhanced risk upgrade just for that. And then we'll see what tornado threats do. I would be really surprised if everything stays slight risk both tomorrow and Thursday. Just one day's probably got to go enhanced. Is 38138 okay for Thursday? 38138. Germantown, Tennessee. Oh yeah, you should be okay. But let's take a look. Yeah, you are in the southwest corner of Tennessee, so we'll watch the worst threats. You see those yellow colors on off towards your west there. You are doing okay there in Germantown, Tennessee in comparison to that area. Probably going to be a leftover wind and hail threat if it makes it to that area, and maybe a very low-end tornado threat. But all threats this is on a scale of 1 to 5. The Storm Prediction Center outlining your area in a level 1 risk, meaning you have a reason to be concerned for low-end potential severe storms. Severe weather is going to be isolated, if at all, across that area. So be weather aware, be prepared, but don't be really scared, I wouldn't say, about these storms. And really, even if you're in one of these higher-end risks, don't be scared. Just be prepared. But I don't know, when I hear that phrase about not being scared, I think there's some level of being scared that's almost necessary to get people prepared, if that makes sense. And people are naturally going to be scared about severe weather events like this, unless you're a storm chaser or weather enthusiast normally. But to me, I don't really understand why there's that mindset that people should not be scared, because in some cases there are situations where you should be scared, but in a marginal risk, that's not it. Maybe in these hatch zones, that's where you should be borderline scared, if you're especially scared of hail or tornadoes, and the low-end tornado threat. You're welcome, Susie Q. Glad to help you out. I'm glad everybody put in their zip codes this evening too, so I could help them out. First time I've done that in a little while. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I produce probably, somewhere between like 3 and 6 weather videos per week normally. Kind of depends on how I do with, I do live streams too like this to kind of discuss hazards and kind of one-on-one with people and their zip codes as well. So essentially, I do videos, live streams when needed. Normally my schedule doesn't really allow for me to do like live severe weather coverage, so I'm more of kind of that preparation for the event kind of channel. So if you like that kind of forecast, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We often do longer range outlooks as well in some of the regular videos I post here. And occasionally I'll do a YouTube short as well. So a lot of different little things I do here on the channel. But I create all types of content, and I'm hoping to have a extra channel where I post like some weather history videos pretty soon as well. Let's see, checking in from northern Mississippi, 38603. Let's get you there. I'm in northern Mississippi. I probably don't even have to type in the zip code to kind of know what you got there in Ashland. But let's look at this. Yeah, pretty much the same thing I was just telling people about there in that zone there just southeast of Memphis. Looking at a leftover threat Thursday night going into Friday. Most activity in this area should be the leftovers from the night before, with a leftover wind and hail threat primarily. Okay. So at this point, stay tuned to, even if you don't follow me all the time, okay? Even if you don't follow my channel all the time, follow someone you're subscribed to and stay tuned on this risk up here. Because if the slight delineations head eastward, that could include some of your areas for a leftover threat that could be a little bit higher. But if you live in Memphis, you live in Ashland, Mississippi, stay weather aware, be prepared, don't be scared. That's my motto for you right now. Yeah, I pretty much already covered all your locations, but good to know your zip code. I'm Samuel Wilkinson. High seas weather history idea sounds pretty cool. Yeah, glad to hear you like that idea. Jake's Awesome Vids checking in. Hello to you. Good evening. But yeah, high seas, back to the weather history idea. I mean, I don't know. I've been doing some research on how I can get better at editing. I'm hoping to have a little bit more time to work on that soon. So it kind of in between creating weather content. Like for the main channel here, just a little bit every day, might be working on like some kind of weather history video. Maybe we'll look back on some old tornadoes and severe weather events. So that would be pretty cool, I think. And a different, something I would post on a different content page. I would put it on the main channel, but, the algorithm's all about consistency and one type of content. So that's why I would kind of keep everything consistent here. But Divas Mom, thank you so much, or thank you very much. I'm new but love this channel. Glad to hear that. Thanks so much for tuning into this stream this evening. And I'm glad you tuned in. Yeah, you're in Wisconsin and you'll be fine. Yeah, for this particular event, looking fine up there in Wisconsin, even on Thursday. The worst of this pretty much staying just there. And remember, these outlooks are going to really kind of stretch this out as far as they can. They're going to stretch the marginal risk delineations as much as they can to kind of keep people prepared. So yeah, Wisconsin looks pretty much mostly out of the threat. But, since this is more in that tornado potential environment Thursday night, and remember, this is Thursday night we're looking at right here. We'll see there in southern Wisconsin, but maybe pushing into that area. But yeah, had a very consistent 30 to 40 people here on the stream this evening. I'm so glad to have everybody on here. It's just my favorite thing to do, create weather content for everyone, and just feel blessed to be able to do this for everyone. So I'm so glad everybody's tuning in and putting in those zip codes so I can help you out with this particular severe weather event. Found this channel the other day when I had severe weather coming, so I subbed. Yeah, that seems to be the trend. Bigger events, more people kind of searching up, finding these videos. The algorithm kind of probably knows that people are searching about it more, and then there's more weather videos popping up. So that's going to be how a lot of people subscribe, I think. Jake's Awesome Vids. How do I think the wind risk is going to be? It's going to be mostly for gusts, probably 60 to 70 miles per hour in an isolated to scattered fashion. Misty I just drew a blank as to where you said you were earlier, because I just did like 15 cities. But in northeast Missouri. I think hail's going to be the main threat. But a very valid question about the wind risk. Yeah, 64 degrees over there in Missouri, Misty. I'm in the Carolinas, so well into the 70s this week here. In fact, 80s on the way as well, even. So it is getting warm. Shared. Hope that will help, says Divas Mom. Thank you so much for sharing. I rarely get people who tell me they shared. No, I don't know how many people actually share. There might be more than I think. But I really appreciate when you share it out to family and friends. Just helps get this information out to more people, gets more subscribers, builds the channel faster, and then in turn there's more new viewers coming in as well, not just family members. So having new family members also just increases overall reach of the channel, and I really appreciate that. 62 Cash Money says where you are. Not supposed to be 70 degrees. Well, yeah, Jake's Awesome Vids I was talking about. Yeah, 70s in the Carolinas where I am. Yeah, on up there in Wisconsin, you're not in the 70s right now. I'm like on the lakeshore, especially if so 40 degrees Thursday, you say. Yeah, though there have been some 70s that far north recently in the Great Lakes region with all these big warm-ups. But yeah, I'll continue to keep you updated on the severe weather threat. Also, if you're a new subscriber to the channel, or even if you're an existing subscriber, I want you to go at the end of the stream, which I'm about to end here, and go on over to the main channel page. You can do that just by clicking on where it says One Nation Weather below the stream. So if you close the chat box, click where it says One Nation Weather. Once you click on that, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, make sure you click where it says subscribed and hit that little notification bell so that you get immediately like a little ping on your phone. If you've got YouTube notifications on in your settings as well, you'll get an immediate little notification on your phone. It'll ping on through, and you'll be able to watch whatever video or stream I'm actively doing as soon as it pops up, and you won't have to rely on just happening to be on YouTube when I start the stream. Weatherman name is Ryan Hall, y'all, at a YouTube channel. Yeah, Ryan Hall is the weather goat, greatest of all time. Well, you know. Of recent time especially. He's been the GOAT on YouTube of weather. Definitely the GOAT of weather YouTube, let's put it that way, with his millions of followers. 70 today in Missouri, yeah. Alright, thanks so much to everybody for tuning into this about hour-long live stream. If I stay on here for about 5 more minutes, it'll be about an hour long. But I haven't gotten any new zip codes, getting the same people kind of commenting and chatting in the chat. So thanks so much to everybody who tuned in this evening. And that's going to be it for this live stream. Stay tuned. Hopefully I'll have new content out tomorrow evening, whether it's a stream or an update video to kind of discuss what we've got on the way. Should have something out. So again, make sure those notifications are on, and that's how you'll know. And I'll also probably post some sort of community post update in the community tab of the channel, so you know when or if I'm going live or doing an update, any of that, a video and whatnot. I should partner up with Ryan Hall. Yeah, I don't really know how that would work. But I mean, I would always be honored to do something like that for sure. Next live stream start time, I have no clue. Samuel Wilkinson. You're welcome for streaming, High Seas. But yeah, Samuel Wilkinson. Make sure if you're not subscribed, the best way to know when the next one is to hit subscribe. And then turn on the notifications, and then you'll know when it starts. But I'll also do some probably sort of community posts, like before this live stream I did one as well. And it'll kind of tell you, okay, I'll let you know, like, okay, I'm going live at this point, and we'll be going live or doing a video at this point. Glad your notifications are on, Jake's Awesome Vids, but yeah, Samuel Wilkinson, just make sure, if you want to know when the next live stream starting, the notifications are on, because hopefully it shares out community posts. I really don't know how well all notifications work, but it should let you know when I do community posts, and I always do those a few hours before I actually do a video or stream normally. But you got your phone ready to get alerts, Misty?